Hey, I'm back again with another little video. This time I want to provide some ideas about potential rewards for players who succeed in the Isle. Since the game started, the only true objective was to survive. But for players who might want a little more, the game can feel somewhat aimless. Once you survive to adulthood, there really isn't anything else to do but continue surviving, fighting to the death, or jumping off a cliff to start over. I think survival is important to the game, but I also want there to be more to the game than that. I want to be rewarded for my time and effort, even if by a little bit. The point of this video is to brainstorm some possible ways the devs could make the game feel more satisfying. I don't expect everything in this video to be implemented, but sometimes you just gotta let it be heard. Let's get into it. My first idea was about Steam achievements. This would be quick to implement, just some small achievements for doing things in the game. For example, achievements for reaching adulthood for any animal. Achievements for nesting in any animal. Achievements for reaching special locations. Achievements for killing an animal. Achievements specific to animal abilities, like making a burrow with Dryosaurus, or spitting on another player with Hypsilophodon. Small things like this could go a long way to make the player feel the satisfaction of achieving something. Let's move on to nesting. In Avrima, nesting is generally a well-made mechanic. The problem is that there really isn't an incentive to making a nest other than the novelty of it. Players who want to nest in their friends could easily wait for them to spawn abnormally and run over to their location. Nest creation and hatchling growing is slow too, so nesting is quite rare. Let's make it more valuable for both hatchlings and parents. First of all, a permanent growth boost for hatchlings would be a nice start. Nothing crazy, but maybe an added 10 to 20% on top of their diet boost would go a long way, especially for apex animals. Next, let's talk about how mutations could factor in. From what I know, mutations are passive boosts that your next animal can use. They can be unlocked from dying naturally as an elder. For parents who choose to nest, they get an additional mutation if they get to the elder stage. This would mean if you die naturally, you get 2 mutations. If you choose to become a strain, then you lose the one from dying naturally, but keep the one from nesting. Depending on how powerful mutations are, nesting could become very important, yet still an optional mechanic. The benefits would be more nesting engagement in the player base, and greater importance on egg stealers. The Oviraptor is in a tough spot in terms of diet. They definitely need nests to be more numerous to survive. Hatchlings would not get this extra mutation, so they would need to grow up and make their own nest to benefit from it. It was the parents who made the nest and raised the hatchlings anyway, so they should be the most benefited. You could also exchange the extra mutation with a new skin pattern if they ever make more than 2 per animal. But I don't think that would keep players engaged for as long as mutations. To be honest, the most important forms of progression would be the elder and mutation systems. I am a little disappointed that they aren't included in the new roadmap, since I consider them as important or more so than Gateway. I hope they aren't rolled back too much. Lastly, I wanted to cover my idea for a returning, optional, and improved progression game mode. I made a separate video about it, so if you'd like to know more, take a look there. But it would seem wrong not to include it in a video about progress in the Isle. To summarize, I would like a 5-tier progression tree that ends in an apex that represents the line. For example, starting with Protoceratops Tier 1 and ending with Triceratops Tier 5. Instead of using points to progress, players would start at 30 or 40% growth. To get to the next animal, you would need to get to 100% growth. Growth speed would be increased from survival to make things move faster. Nesting would naturally be more important to get players to skip partially or completely up the progression tree. Furthermore, parents would probably get mutations for their next animal. Dying naturally as an elder would add a safety net for animals at and below the 3rd tier. The next time they die, go down 1 tier instead of resetting at the beginning. For Tier 4 animals that die naturally, go down 2 tiers. This is to prevent players from cheesing the system and staying at Tier 4 or 5. For Tier 5, the apex animals who die naturally as an elder, they get to choose any Tier 3 animal on all progression trees. This would give the game a progression loop. Once you finish one line and get bored, you can get a head start on another line of your choosing. Progression is not as loved as survival. Many find fault with Legacy's implementation. However, I think the game mode has some potential to naturally limit apexes, add a feeling of progression, and encourage players to engage with nesting and diets. These were just some thoughts I had to make the isle more engaging and satisfying to succeed in. I just added a lot of ideas you might consider absurd, but I think even crazy suggestions can have small bits of brilliance. If you have any thoughts, criticism, or speculation, let me know. Thanks for watching. See you.